Welcome to the Love Story with Lisa channel. Today, we're bringing you a brand new story. The entire family wanted me to give up the position of legitimate wife to her. In that case, let's divorce. I've endured enough. Synopsis: in the 6th year after marrying Adrian Shao, I finally became pregnant, yet he brought back his long-lost white moonlight, the woman he had once been separated from, with only one sentence: "Do you still recognize me as your concubine?" Adrian Shao decided that I should yield the position of legitimate wife to her, my mother-in-law, whom I had attended at her bedside for 6 full years, advised me to know when to stop and learn to be content. My sister-in-law, whom I had raised with my own hands, despised me for being the daughter of a merchant family. Said I lacked the ability to support the household and was unworthy of her elder brother. Even my brother-in-law, whose life I had once saved at the risk of my own, said that it was only natural for a woman who had been childless for 4 years to be cast aside. I asked Adrian Shao, "Do you think the same?" His silence pierced my heart more deeply than any blade. I left behind a letter of divorce, and took with me a packet of abortion medicine. Then I left. 3 years later, I rode past the Shao family, now stripped of their wealth and possessions, seated atop the tall horse of my husband. Someone shouted loudly, calling me sister-in-law. I did not turn back. "Your sister-in-law was beheaded just moments ago. Her body is still warm. What does that have to do with me?" It was July. The heat scorched the sky. I spent the entire day bustling about in the small kitchen, and only at last finished preparing 2 boxes of food. Without delay, I hurried toward Linhua Pavilion. Lillian Shao, my younger sister-in-law, feared the heat yet was too frail to use ice. I had personally cooked a bowl of mung bean soup and made several red bean pastries with my own hands, to cool her body and satisfy her cravings. She was extremely picky with food. Anything made by others, she would take 1 bite, then spit it out without hesitation. Yet strangely, whatever I made, no matter what it was, she always finished every last bite. When her elder brother and I became betrothed, she was only 3 years old. At that time, the Marquis household had fallen into ruin. She had nothing to eat, her cheeks hollow, her body nothing but skin and bones. Even her cries were as faint as a kitten's mewl. It was I who fed her spoonful by spoonful, raising her on chicken porridge. These past years, though I had no children of my own, Lillian Shao treated me as her real mother, respecting me, loving me, clinging to me the most, only now that she had grown older, busy learning etiquette and formal studies, did she come to visit my courtyard less often. By the time I arrived at Linhua Pavilion, sweat soaking my brow with the food she loved, I realized the little girl who had been practicing calligraphy was nowhere to be found. With no other choice, I hurried again, this time toward Qingfeng Hall, where my brother-in-law resided. By the time I reached Qingfeng Hall, drenched in sweat, there was still no one in sight. A servant of Julian Shao informed me that both the young lady and the young master had gone to the old madam's courtyard, my mother-in-law's residence. Ever since giving birth to the twins, her health had been poor, in recent years. After the Marquis household met disaster and the old Marquis died in prison, she had fallen gravely ill and could not rise from bed. She was often attended by me at her bedside. She rarely went out, paid no attention to worldly affairs. Even the twins had been raised by me since infancy. Could her health have worsened again? My heart leapt in alarm. Ignoring the blazing midday sun, I rushed toward my mother-in-law's courtyard. My steps flew like the wind, even when I stumbled over my skirts and twisted my ankle. I did not slow. Before the thick wooden doors, I heard laughter from inside. Only then did I finally let out a breath of relief. Just as I was about to push the door open, a woman's clear, gentle voice sounded, "Adrian Shao. Do you still recognize me? Do you still remember our engagement?" The laughter stopped abruptly. My hand froze against the door. Adrian Shao, my husband, last month. He had gone on a journey to the northern frontier. He should have returned days ago, yet his return had been delayed until today. But upon coming back to the residence, he never sent word to me. No one informed me either. So it turned out, he had brought a woman back with him. From that voice, I knew at once. It was Helena Chi. His white moonlight. I pressed a hand to my abdomen. Still flat, not yet showing. My palm was slick with sweat. They say that what one cannot obtain in youth becomes an obsession for life. Then what of the one who was missed and lost in youth? The cicadas screeched wildly. My heart pounded like a war drum. I waited, desperate for an explanation. After a long while, Adrian Shao spoke in a low voice. Escorting you back to the capital across 10,000 miles, of course, I owe you an explanation. He acknowledged her engagement. He wanted to give her an explanation. Then, what about me? The smooth wooden door suddenly felt like a bed of thorns, stabbing straight into my heart. The pain would not fade. After a moment, Lillian Shao spoke softly. Then, what about sister-in-law Serena? Adrian Shao did not answer. My mother-in-law replied coldly. The one originally betrothed to your elder brother was Helena Chi. If she wishes, she may be taken as a concubine. We cannot allow Chier to be wronged. This matter requires no further discussion. It is decided. Adrian Shao still did not speak. Sometimes, silence is the most terrifying answer. Silence is tacit consent. The food basket in my hand suddenly felt unbearably heavy. Pain seeped into my bones, leaving me unsure of what to do next. Helena Chi, elder sister, talented, born of a noble family. Standing beside my husband, they were the perfect match, a union of gifted man and beautiful woman. Lillian, you are grown now. You should understand that a woman's useless kindness only drags the family down. It brings no benefit at all. Useless kindness. Dragging the family down, Julian Shao was reproaching me. Last time, on the way to visit the Grand Scholar, Master Chu, I had no choice but to save a child lying by the roadside. Because of that delay, we arrived late at the Chu residence. All the knowledge Julian had meticulously prepared, what he had intended to display before everyone, was never presented. The entire day passed in silence, though I tried my utmost to plead with Madame Chu to put in a kind word for him. He still blamed me, so it turned out that years of wholehearted devotion were worth less than a single mistake. His words were like a basin of icy water poured straight over my head. All the years I had poured my heart into this family, reduced to a joke. Cold to the bone, cold to the heart. Bang. The door was suddenly shoved open by me. Serena. Shock flashed across every face. Adrian Shao abruptly stepped back, instinctively putting distance between himself and Helena Chi. His gaze fell on me, cold and sharp. Why are you here? Helena Chi startled slightly, but quickly regained her composure. The curve of her crimson lips lifted faintly. So this is elder sister. The two words, elder sister, seemed to sizzle when she spoke them, as though they burned her tongue. She was beautiful. Though she had once been married, under her family's careful protection she still looked like a maiden of 18. In her eyes remained a kind of naive innocence, one that did not match her age. That innocence was something I had long since burned away myself, the day I lit my first oven to bake bread with my own hands. Elder sister, how long have you been standing there? Why does your complexion look so poor? Are you unwell? She knew I had heard everything. There was a faint provocation hidden in her tone. I had never liked her. From the very beginning, I had not liked her. I was the only daughter of the Wei family. I had no sisters. Serena. Adrian stepped in front of Helena, unconsciously raising his voice in reprimand. as if I had committed some unforgivable offense, something that wounded him deeply. He stood tall and refined, sunlight falling across his figure. For a fleeting moment, he overlapped with the image in my memory, that night when I first saw him beneath the corridor lanterns. But in the furrow of his brow now, I saw only estrangement. Only distance. He softened his voice and walked toward me. "Serena, don't make a scene." He took one step forward. I retreated 3. Helena reached out as if to grasp his hand, but failed. She stood there, eyes reddening. "If elder sister dislikes me, I will leave at once. Please, do not quarrel and harm the feelings between husband and wife because of me." Seeing this, my mother-in-law took Helena's hand and looked at me with cold disdain. "You heard everything. I will not hide it from you. If you had not taken advantage of the Shao family's misfortune back then, you would never have married Adrian. You were not worthy. Taken advantage of their misfortune, when Helena did not want them, they begged me. Now that she wants them again, I have become the eyesore." My words seemed to stab into a hornet's nest. Lillian Shao rushed to stand in front of her mother and shouted at me, "You are from a merchant family. How could you possibly sit at the same table as the wives of noble houses? You cannot even hold a proper conversation with them. How could you ever support our family for my elder brother? Yield the position of mistress to Helena Chi. You can still live in wealth and comfort. What is there to be dissatisfied about?" Speaking to one's mother like this was unfilial. In her hands, she held an exquisite cosmetics box, gold inlaid with multicolored jade, a rare piece from the northern frontier, a gift from Helena Chi, and I, all these years, I had only carried a small food box. Now she stood tall and graceful, her neck lifted proudly, her ambitions aimed toward greater, more powerful families. I, powerless as drifting duckweed, could not help her achieve those ambitions. I could not be her support. She despised my food box. She despised me. Standing at Helena's side, she used filial piety as a blade to press against me. My fingers loosened. The food box fell to the ground. The mung bean soup I had simmered for half a day spilled everywhere. Dirty. Sticky, unsightly. It clashed with the refined elegance of the Marquis residence. "Just like me," Julian Shao coldly rebuked me. "You are jealous and showing disrespect to a guest. Completely lacking propriety. My elder brother has given you a place to stay. Even if he casts you aside, he would have just cause. You have failed to bear a child in 6 years. You are the mistress of this household. Can you not learn from Sister Helena how to be a noble lady? Do not be ignorant of when to advance and when to retreat. Apologize to Sister Helena at once. You are still half the master of this residence." 6 years without a child. Had Julian forgotten? The year he was 5, he contracted smallpox. Everyone avoided him like the plague, wanting to throw him into a ruined temple and leave him to fate. It was he, eyes brimming with tears, who weakly clutched my sleeve and begged me to save him. To save him, I entered that infected room with him. 7 days and 7 nights without sleep. He survived the pox. But the child in my womb turned into a pool of blood. In the years after, to recover my body, I swallowed bowl after bowl of bitter medicine. So bitter that my body grew bitter, my life grew bitter, and now, he used that very wound as a blade, cutting me down without mercy. I was disappointed, deeply disappointed, but I did not regret saving him. A person's sincerity and kindness should never be a crime. I only regret one thing. When I gave my whole heart to others, I did not keep even a fragment for myself. The sea may be shallow, but the heart of a petty man is fathomless. He had forgotten the smallpox. He had forgotten that because of him, My body had been damaged beyond repair. But the Shao family should not forget, for 6 years, I devoted every ounce of myself to the Marquis household. There was no way I would allow anyone to force me to bow my head. I looked straight at Adrian Shao. Do you think the same? His dark eyes settled on me. Several times, he seemed about to speak, yet each time, a glance from Helena Chi stopped him. His hesitation was like a rod of red-hot iron, burning away every last shred of affection I still held. I understood. That silence was his answer. Adrian Shao. Let us divorce. His eyes flared crimson with sudden fury. Say that again. I raised my voice. I met his gaze directly, neither arrogant nor pleading. Adrian Shao. I want a divorce. A suffocating silence fell. Even the sound of a needle dropping could have been heard. At that moment, Madame Shao let out an ill-timed laugh. She patted Helena's hand as though in support, then said mockingly, Adrian is not someone you can threaten. The Marquis residence is not a place you come and go from as you please. Do you imagine you can live in silk and luxury by selling pastries? You must be dreaming. Lillian Shao lifted her chin and advised me, Sister Helena is very easygoing. If you stop making trouble as you always do, she won't make things difficult for you. But if you insist on being stubborn, I cannot help you. Julian Shao added coldly, you have no family backing you. If you leave the Marquis residence, where will you go? It is only an apology. What is so difficult about that? Elder brother will not mistreat you. We will still treat you well, as before. Sister Helena is not narrow-minded. Whether Helena was narrow-minded or not, I did not know. But I knew this, after she married someone else. She once blocked my path at my pastry stall. She ordered her arrogant servants to overturn my basket of freshly baked pastries. Sesame oil spilled all over the ground. They trampled the cakes I had worked the entire night to make. I was pressed down onto the dirt. She stood above me, looking down with contempt. Is Adrian Shao blind, or simply starving, that he would choose you? Doesn't he feel sick touching those greasy hands of yours every day? I wanted to retort, but one of her guards placed a hammer against my oven. That oven was the heirloom of my family, passed down through generations, the very source of our livelihood. She held my weakness in her hand, so I endured her humiliation. When she grew bored, she tossed a handful of broken silver coins at me. Then she ordered a servant to dump a bucket of filthy water into my blazing oven. She laughed loudly and left. That night, I knelt beneath the eaves in the freezing cold, scrubbing the oven clean. My 10 fingers split and swollen. That winter, baking became almost impossible. She crushed my dignity. She destroyed my means of survival. Selfish. Petty, a heart filled only with malice. How could someone like that ever tolerate my presence? And the Shao family, they stood on her side, just like that day in the street, when she humiliated me from above, adopting the posture of superiority, looking down at me, belittling me, just to curry favor with Helena. From this day forward, every night and every dawn would be the same. I would become the grain of sand within their harmony, always obstructing, always out of place. But I was never meant to be a grain of sand. I only want a divorce. Adrian faced me, eyes cold as frost. His fists trembled. His entire body seemed encased in a chilling aura that frightened even me. Yet at Helena's soft, trembling call, Brother Adrian. The frost melted. What remained was only a mocking smile on his lips. I thought you were simple and honest. I never expected that after these years, you have learned the tricks of noble households' inner courtyards. It seems I overestimated you. That day, I returned to my courtyard beneath the scorching sun, carrying the divorce letter Adrian had angrily thrown at me. I searched through the entire residence. I could not find a single belonging that was truly mine. Only then did I realize, all these years, I had been filial to my mother-in-law, devoted to my husband, caring to my siblings-in-law, but I had never once treated myself kindly. In the end, I owned only a small bundle containing a few plain hairpins left to me by my father before his death. That was all the luggage I had. As I passed beneath the veranda, I heard old women gossiping in the shade. They said Helena Chi had entered the capital half a month ago. The young master of the minister's residence whom the young lady admired had secured a boat excursion on the lake thanks to Helena's introduction. And his wish was fulfilled. The second young master had wanted admission into the academy. With the generous gifts from the Chi family, he was immediately accepted. Even the jade Buddha statue that Madame Xiao loved most, Helena had persuaded her aunt, noble consort Chi, to obtain one from the palace. It had just been delivered. Adrian valued Helena deeply. He even hosted a grand banquet at Hongyan Pavilion, the largest establishment in the city, to welcome her return. But, were all these things truly done for Helena's sake? Who had verified any of it? Julian Xiao and Lillian Xiao stood at her sides like two devoted guardians, clinging to her for the sake of their own futures. Even Madame Xiao, ill in bed, forced herself to sit upright to preserve Helena's dignity. Without me, they would not need me. I was the flame at the bottom of the pot, burning myself to boil the future of the Xiao family, and when the fire would turn to ash, it would be discarded at the bottom of the stove, thrown beside the pigsty, left to rot into fertilizer. Those young ladies who once envied me, who had watched a pastry seller become the Marchioness, now, filled with jealousy toward Helena, had begun to pity me instead. How pitiful. The pastry girl who wagered her fate on the rise and fall of the Marquis household, yet failed to wager correctly on the human heart. When I married Adrian Xiao, I had never been gambling. That year, the Marquis residence met disaster. Their property was confiscated. The family was imprisoned. The old Marquis died tragically in prison. Adrian's grandmother, frail and aged, went from door to door pleading for help, only to be met with doors slammed shut, like the unyielding southern wall at the end of a dead road. At last, she remembered my father. "You were once saved by the Marquis," she said, and so she brought the entire Xiao family to our small courtyard. A single oil lamp illuminated the loyalty and responsibility of the poor. My father was not afraid of threats from powerful nobles. He took in a family of criminals, abandoned by all their relatives and friends. He gave them the largest room. He himself moved to a wooden cot beside the stove. The Marquis household had a roof over their heads because of him. He often said one sentence: "Place your hand upon your chest. If it is calm, that is our conscience and our courage." He had only wished to repay a debt of gratitude. Instead, he was used by those with ulterior motives. Rumors spread everywhere. They said that Adrian Xiao and I had an improper relationship. Otherwise, among so many people fallen on hard times, why would Old Wei open 3 more ovens, just to support the Xiao family? The Qi family and the Xiao family had long ago arranged an engagement. But when the Xiao family fell into ruin, the Qi family sought faults in order to withdraw. Every rumor was born of greed. Adrian stood there, not eating, not drinking. He was like a sword forged from ice and snow, shattered by his white moonlight. Helena Chi, his will collapsed. His spirit dispersed. It seemed that even a passing breeze could knock him down. His grandmother wept bitterly. Her clouded eyes were nearly blind. I advised him. I comforted him. I exhausted myself trying to guide him back to his feet, but nothing worked. A man as refined as magnolia and cypress, how could he fall so easily? the old lady I had tended for so long had only just begun to recover some strength. And then illness struck her again, confining her to bed. I could bear it no longer. I seized a broom and rushed to the mouth of the alley. I beat and scolded the gossiping women. I called them shameless. I called them petty villains. I accused them of selling their consciences for a handful of silver. My father was fiercely protective of his children. Whenever I argued with someone, he would stand behind me holding his rolling pin, majestic as a general guarding his soldier. With my father backing me, I was unstoppable. At that time, Adrian stood in the shadows, silently watching me cause a scene, watching me defeat every opponent, watching me force one old crone to apologize. When she refused, I grabbed her hair and knocked out one of her teeth. Holding that tooth in my bloodied hand, I cheerfully called out to my father as we returned to the courtyard, "Now I've vented my anger. No need to be upset anymore. Whoever dares to talk again, I'll knock out all his teeth." "I thank you." His hollow, desolate eyes suddenly brimmed with tears. Without warning, he pulled me into his arms. Snow fell quietly upon him, but inside my chest, thunder roared. My heart pounded so violently it felt as if it would burst from my ribs. When my father squatted on the ground, snow stinging his eyes, crying out in pain, I even forgot to push Adrian away, and then, the old woman whose tooth I had knocked out rushed over, demanding it back. Look. Was I wrong? Broad daylight, and they're already embracing. This time, it was my father's shove that silenced her. "I usually do not strike women," he said, "but today is not an ordinary day." Adrian lifted my face, resolute, Serena. "I will give you an explanation." His explanation was this: his grandmother, beaming with delight, brought out her only jade bracelet and formally proposed to my father. He was like the bright moon in the heavens, untouched by dust. I was but wild reeds in the corner of a wall, growing from mud. We were as different as heaven and earth. We were mismatched. Even if fate had forced us together, we should not cling to something so unsuitable. My heart stirred, but I did not insist. Some things are arranged by destiny. Who can foresee them? My father, worn down by days of worry, collapsed beside the blazing oven. He fell ill and never recovered. For years, father and daughter had depended only on each other. Aside from our ancestral oven, the only thing he could never stop worrying about was me. The oven I had built in our thatched house, it would not run away. But I, without my father, was like duckweed adrift upon water. Serena. Agree to him, my father said weakly. I have helped them enough. At least they will not mistreat you. Adrian clasped my father's rough, calloused hands and vowed to care for Serena for the rest of his life. With that one sentence, my father struggled back from exhaustion. A man like towering pine and cypress, bowed his back before those he once despised. He humbled himself for them, those petty men who delighted in trampling upon the upright. I saw every humiliation he endured. Only in the pitch black of night would he bury his tear-filled eyes against my shoulder and pour out his grievances. I could not help him. All I could do was shoulder every burden in his stead, caring for the elderly and the young. I was tired, but perhaps I was the only one who could walk beside him. So that year, I learned how to endure. That year, he truly walked through hardship and ruin. Even the blood-soaked body of the old Marquis, he clenched his teeth and carried it back step by step. The old Marquis's blood, mingled with Adrian Zhao's tears, fell upon the earth, forming a path of crimson blossoms. He was like a man who had crawled out from a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. My heart ached for all that he had suffered. I understood why he chose Helena Chi. It was for the family. The Chi family's noble consort Chi, was favored in the palace. the Qi household stood in power like the blazing midday sun. Even after Helena's divorce, noble families scrambled to claim her. But the Shao family was different. Though their name had been cleared, they had no one to speak for them. The emperor merely returned their former residence and title. He did not grant them any official post. Julian Shao, burning with youthful ambition, was suppressed, unable to advance. Lilian Shao, of marriageable age, was not even invited to aristocratic banquets. They were stranded, unable to move forward, unable to retreat. They needed a future, so they gambled. They chose the Qi family, an old affection. I understood everything. But I could not accept it. I could not accept that the man who had once promised me a lifetime of peace would push me into the vicious struggles of the inner courtyard, into a life where tomorrow was uncertain. I could not accept watching him embrace a new beloved every day, while I swallowed bitterness and told myself to be generous, to endure, to be understanding for the sake of the family's future. I could not accept having to measure myself against another woman, competing daily in petty rivalries. I was only a pastry girl. My greatest ambition had been to bake one more fragrant, crispy batch of pastries. I did not love the intrigues of noble households. I did not know how to feign sincerity. Even if I were asked to act alongside them, I could not. I would not accept it, and so, I left, with only a small bundle of plain hairpins, and a packet of abortion medicine I purchased the moment I stepped out the gate, south of the Yangtze, the land of rivers and rice fields, where my ancestors once lived. Following the current southward, I traveled 1,000 miles, all my old dreams in the capital, left behind. The next chapter. From Adrian Zhao's perspective, at Hongyan Pavilion, the guests were numerous and lively. Only Adrian's heart was hollow. He thought of Serena's resolute expression when she spoke of divorce. A heaviness lodged in his chest. His complexion was poor. It was not until the minister's wife affectionately clasped Lilian Zhao's hand and praised her beauty that he felt slightly relieved. Seeing Lilian's shy smile, he told himself, Serena would understand. He had walked this road through hardship, bearing the responsibility of restoring the Marquis household and preserving the family's honor. He wanted his younger brother and sister to live easier lives, so he had to choose the shortest path. Serena would understand. She had always loved Lilian, treasured her like jade. If she knew Lilian could become engaged to the son of the minister, her long-cherished wish, surely she would be happier than he was. As long as Serena thought it through, apologized obediently to Helena, tore up the divorce letter, and expressed filial devotion to Madame Shao, no one would truly force her to kneel in the ancestral hall. But the minister's wife's next words struck him like a hammer. He reeled. Your sister-in-law is truly capable. If she hadn't trained my daughter's 10 fingers and taught her embroidery pattern by pattern, that lazy girl, neither accomplished in literature nor martial arts, how could she have stood out at the Empress Dowager's birthday banquet and earned such praise? Han Dan, the minister's daughter, her embroidered twin phoenix design had won the Empress Dowager's admiration at the longevity banquet. She was conferred as a consort to the crown prince, who at that time enjoyed unparalleled favor. Originally, the crown prince's consort had already been decided. It was only a matter of procedure, yet unexpectedly, the embroidery praised by the Empress Dowager had come from Serena's hands. The Shao family had never known quiet, reserved Serena way. Since when had she grown so close to the minister's household? But if she truly had such deep connections, why, knowing Lilian's desires, had she advised her to cultivate herself instead of currying favor? The minister's wife seemed to see through their thoughts. Her face was smiling. Her eyes were not. Patting Lilian's hand, she said lightly, your sister-in-law praised you for being intelligent and sensible, and for your exceptional beauty. I believe her. She understands my preferences. Her eye for people has never been wrong. Unlike certain girls who do not know propriety, meeting strange men in broad daylight. A shameless girl like that. Even as a concubine, she would be an embarrassment. I was exhausted, caring for the frail and the sick, tending to a child barely out of infancy. And yet, perhaps I was the only one who could walk beside him. So that year, I learned how to endure. That year, he truly walked through thorns and hardship. Even the blood-soaked body of the old Marquis, he gritted his teeth and carried it back step by step. The old Marquis's blood mingled with Adrian Zhao's tears, falling onto the earth, tracing a path like a road of crimson blossoms. He seemed to have emerged from mountains of corpses and seas of blood. My heart ached for all that he had borne. I understood why he chose Helena Chi. For the sake of the family, noble consort Chi was in favor. The Chi family stood at the height of their power, blazing like the midday sun. Even after a divorce, Helena Chi would still be fought over by aristocratic houses. But the Shao family was different. Though their injustice had been cleared, with no one to speak for them, the emperor merely restored their former estate and title. Not a single official post was granted. Julian Shao was at the height of youthful ambition, yet suppressed and unable to rise. Lilian Shao had reached the age of betrothal, yet received no invitations to the banquets of the nobility. They were stranded, unable to move forward, unable to retreat. They needed a future. So they chose to gamble. They chose the Qi family, leaning on old affections. I understood. I understood it all, but I could not accept it. I could not accept that the man who once promised me a lifetime of peace would push me into the hidden battles of the inner courtyard, where tomorrow was unknowable. I could not accept watching him cradle a new lover each day while I swallowed bitterness, telling myself to be magnanimous, to endure, to be sensible, for the sake of the family's future, nor could I accept measuring myself against another woman. Fighting for superiority, I was only ever a girl who sold pastries. My greatest ambition had been to bake another tray of fragrant, crisp cakes. I had no love for the schemes of the inner court. I did not know how to feign sweetness or mask my true thoughts. Even if asked to act alongside them, I could not do it, I could not accept it, and so, I left. I took with me a small bundle of plain hairpins, and a packet of abortion medicine, purchased the moment I stepped outside the gates. South of the river lay Jiangnan, the land of water and rice fields, where my ancestors once lived. Following the current southward, I traveled 1,000 miles. All the old dreams of the capital were left behind me. The next part is told from Adrian Zhao's perspective. At Hongyan Pavilion, the guests were as numerous as clouds, the atmosphere lively and loud. Yet Adrian Zhao's heart was hollow. He thought of Serena Wei's composed expression when she spoke of divorce. His chest tightened, his complexion dimmed. Only when the wife of a minister affectionately clasped Lilian Zhao's hand and praised her growing beauty did he feel a slight easing. Seeing Lilian's shy smile, he told himself Serena would understand. He had walked a path filled with hardship, bearing the responsibility of restoring the marquisate and protecting the family's honor. He wanted his younger brother and sister to live with ease. That meant choosing the shortest road. Serena would understand. She had always cherished Lilian, treating her like a precious jewel. If she knew Lilian could become engaged to the minister's son she had long admired, she would surely rejoice even more than he did. As long as Serena came to her senses, obediently apologized to Helena Chi, tore up the letter of divorce, and expressed her goodwill to Madame Shao, no one would truly force her to kneel in the ancestral hall. But the minister's wife's next words struck him like a hammer, leaving him reeling. Your sister-in-law is truly capable. If she hadn't trained those 10 fingers and taught Huan Dan embroidery and refinement, how could that lazy girl, neither accomplished in letters nor arms, have stood out at the Empress Dowager's birthday banquet and earned such praise? Huan Dan, the minister's daughter, had won the Empress Dowager's admiration with a pair of embroidered screens, and was bestowed as consort to the crown prince, the most favored of the imperial sons. Her glory had once been unmatched. That position had already been decided, merely awaiting formalities. Yet the embroidery praised by the Empress Dowager had come from Serena Wei's hands, though no one in the Shao family had ever known. When had the quiet, reticent Serena grown so close to the minister's household, and if she knew Lillian's intentions so well, why had she advised her to cultivate herself rather than curry favor? The minister's wife seemed to see through them. Though her lips curved in a smile, her eyes were utterly cold as she patted Lillian's hand. Your sister-in-law praised you as clever and sensible, beautiful as well. I trust her judgment. She understands my preferences, and her eye has never been poor. Unlike certain girls who do not know propriety, meeting strange men in broad daylight. Such shamelessness. Even as a concubine, it would be disgraceful. Lillian Shao trembled as though struck, her face drained of color. This had been Helena Chi's instruction, that a woman need only a thin veil of allure to ensnare a man, drown him in beauty until he could not escape, then all would go smoothly. Thus, under Helena Chi's arrangement, she had gone boating with Su Zhao upon the lake, discussing poetry for half a day. But beneath the light of day, gossip could not be escaped. Her reputation was ruined. Her eyes reddened as she cast a resentful glance at Adrian Shao. You are just as flustered as I am. She didn't mean it. She was only a little hasty. Adrian thought Serena had always been gentle and reasonable. Once Lillian returned home, if she simply went to Serena and coaxed her sweetly, given Serena's closeness with the minister's wife, surely a few words would suffice. As for Helena Chi, he looked toward her radiant figure moving gracefully among the powerful and noble, poised and composed. In comparison, Serena, who had always lived quietly, could never attain such elegance. He exhaled in relief. Only someone frank and magnanimous like Helena Chi could elevate the Marquisite's reputation. Even Julian Zhao's prospects had flourished through her assistance. Just as he was thinking this, the wife of Julian's teacher approached with a gift, a bolt of cloth worth 1,000 pieces of gold. Recognized by the wife of a grand scholar, Julian felt a surge of confidence. You are too generous, madam. I dare not accept. Adrian too felt pride. How many nobles had sought entry to that eccentric old scholar's door without success? Yet through Helena Chi's treasure, Julian had become his disciple. Now those same nobles, seeing Julian's boundless future, flocked to curry favor. Thinking this, Adrian felt Serena was truly unreasonable. Personal feelings must be set aside before the family's future. Had Madame Shao not treated her like a daughter? Even if Helena Chi became the mistress of the Marquisate, would she truly mistreat Serena? Adrian stepped forward to accept the gift, only for Madame Zhou to shake her head. This is not for you. It is for Nan Feng to bring back to his sister-in-law. Julian stiffened. Why my sister-in-law? Madame Zhou's expression cooled. That day, my son fainted from fright. If not for your sister-in-law's aid, he would have lost his life. I have visited your residence many times, yet she refused gifts for the sake of Nan Feng's studies. Now that Nan Feng has been accepted by the grand scholar, she should accept this. Julian staggered. You mean my acceptance was because of her? Madame Zhou scoffed. Indeed. If not for your sister-in-law's pure and benevolent heart, how could that stubborn old master have been moved? Do you think he is a man swayed by vulgar bribes? The implication struck like a chokehold. Adrian burned with humiliation. From afar, Helena Chi finally noticed the awkwardness and approached. Who is this? Adrian answered in a low voice, the wife of the Grand Scholar. Helena frowned, her expression shifting instantly. The Grand Scholar's wife and I are close. I do not recall her looking like this. The young ladies at her side chimed in. Where did this woman come from? Daring to impersonate the Grand Scholar's wife? She must have come to the wrong place to swindle. Laughter rippled around them. The Shao family stood pale and sweating. Helena lifted her chin proudly. Drive this impostor out. I am in a good mood today and will not report you. Bow and apologize, and I will let you go. Julian and several nobles recognized Madame Zhou and hurried to intervene, but she seemed to have anticipated this. She clapped her hands. A large chest was brought forward. When its lid was lifted, jewels blazed with light. Oh! Realizing your mistake and offering treasures as apology? One of Helena's companions giggled. But Miss Helena lacks nothing. Yet when Helena saw the contents, she froze. Her hand tightened around her handkerchief, her arrogance drained away. Madame Zhou arched a brow, smiling faintly. Miss Helena. You recognize these items, do you not? When Helena Chi was about to deny everything, Madame Zhou's voice turned instantly cold. You bribed the wet nurse in my household, intending to arrange an introduction, using this very chest of jewels. Now everything should be returned to its rightful owner. Those who study and uphold scholarship value integrity. We do not allow crooked paths to stain the gates of the Zhou residence. The expressions of all the guests changed at once. Bribery to secure backdoor favors was nothing new in the capital. But to be exposed publicly like this, Helena Chi was the first. Especially before Master Zhou, a grand scholar who despised those who relied on connections. Even princes received no courtesy from him. Not only had Helena attempted to buy him with wealth, she had even mistaken a mere wet nurse for the true mistress of the house. It was the greatest joke of all. Though humiliated, Helena still forced herself to maintain composure. Madam, why must you insult others so harshly? Julian Shao entered the academy by his own talent. I merely offered a small token of gratitude for your care and assistance. If you choose not to accept it, that is fine, but why spoil the atmosphere at my banquet? The wife of the Grand Scholar was a close confidant of the Empress Dowager. She feared no one. She let out a cold laugh. I did not come here for you. I heard that Lord Shao was hosting a banquet and assumed my little friend Serena Wei would be present. I came especially to speak with her. That unruly child promised to drink tea with me. I prepared a full table of pastries she likes and waited in vain. Instead, I wasted my time coming here, only to watch such an embarrassing farce. Who was Madame Zhou? She was the intimate friend of the Empress Dowager, once cherished by the late emperor. It was said that Master Zhou himself had once been punished to kneel before her. Even princesses and royal consorts received no face if she chose not to grant it, and yet, she openly favored Serena Wei. Such favor was no small matter. It signaled support. It signaled a future. All eyes turned toward Adrian Shao once more. The minister's wife, who had been sipping tea nearby, suddenly found common ground and stepped forward eagerly. Madam, you are also close to Madame Shao. What a coincidence. I am as well. She is Serena Way. She deserves her own name, not to be defined as anyone's wife." With that, she shot Adrian a sharp glare, extinguishing the fragile hope that had just begun to rise in his heart. No title, no standing, yet mixing into such places. Truly a laughingstock. The two noblewomen flicked their sleeves and departed with their entourage, leaving the Shao family standing ashen-faced, and Helena Chi clutching her handkerchief until it tore. If anyone still failed to see that the two ladies were openly shielding Serena Way, then they had lived in vain. Unwilling to be entangled in gossip, the guests quickly found excuses to leave. Within moments, more than half had dispersed. A grand welcoming banquet had turned into fodder for after-dinner mockery. In less than an hour, Adrian felt as if struck by lightning, shocked, yet filled with a strange surge of joy. He rushed back to the Marquisate, eager to ask Serena how many secrets she had hidden in the shadows, how many surprises she had prepared for the family without their knowing. He ran so hastily that he tripped at the threshold, falling hard to the ground. His palms split open, blood seeping out, but he paid it no mind. He scrambled up and hurried towards Serena's courtyard. Yet in the spacious yard, only his mother sat beneath the blooming crabapple tree, clutching a handkerchief tightly. "Mother, where is Serena? I have something important to tell her. And, please, do not speak again of making her a concubine. Serena is my wife. Even if Helena enters the household, Serena will remain my equal wife, not a concubine. From now on, she will continue to manage the household. There will be no, from now on." His mother's words nailed him to the spot. "What did you say?" He stared at her, his heart tightening painfully. "Serena Way has left. And she took the child in her womb with her. She boarded a boat this afternoon. You cannot catch up now." Fortunately, she did not take much. The Marquisate suffered no real loss. Her temper was truly excessive, as though we owed her something. 2 years of care in exchange for 6 years of luxury. What more could she want? Compared to Helena Chi, she truly was unworthy. Only that jade Buddha statue sent from the palace remains. Since she has gone, I shall keep it in my prayer room. Another invisible blade pierced Adrian's chest. He had always thought such a precious item, aside from Helena, could belong to no one else. He had assumed it was Helena's gift to curry favor with his mother, but it had belonged to Serena. It was bestowed by the Empress Dowager after praising her embroidered screens. Knowing she struggled to conceive, the Empress Dowager had specially granted her the jade Buddha as a blessing. The statue was still there, but Serena, and the child she carried, were gone. Only then did Adrian truly understand that something he could never reclaim had silently vanished. He ran wildly through the night toward the docks. The river wind was bitterly cold, scattering his last shred of hope. He did not make it in time to board the ship, and he lost Serena forever. The wound in his palm began to throb. The pain spread slowly, crawling upward, inch by inch, until it reached his chest and seized his heart in unbearable agony. That night, Marquis Shao fell. With that single fall, it was as though he shattered himself into 100 pieces. For the rest of his life, he would regret it. Why had he been just one step too late? 3 years later, I entered the capital with my family, bearing gifts to congratulate the crown prince on the birth of his noble son. Lucian Meng and 5-year-old Elena were quarreling noisily over who would sleep beside me that night. Lucian Meng, who had lived a life of reckless ease, when unable to win with words, immediately resorted to action. He snatched Elena's candied hawthorn skewer, making the little girl burst into loud tears. I grabbed Lucian's ear and twisted it hard. His sharp brows and bright eyes crumpled together. He cried out in pain while begging, utterly without dignity. "I was wrong, my lady, wrong. I beg you, forgive me. You are a fairy goddess, please spare me. Good sister, spare me." Elena immediately burst into laughter, sticking out her tongue to mock him, only to accidentally blow a large snot bubble from her nose. Inside the small carriage, laughter rang out at once. The second young master of the Prince of Huainan, Lu Shenmeng, infamous for his debauched temperament, was obedient as a cat only in front of me. 3 years ago, not long after I went south to Jiangnan, the Shao family had sent people to search for me across 1,000 miles. At that time, I had just lost my child. My body was still frail. I brewed my own medicine and treated myself, and yet, I unexpectedly ran into Adrian Shao on the road. I knew then, he had finally seen the light within me, but I no longer wished to use that light to illuminate their path. I leapt onto a passing carriage and pressed a hairpin against Lu Shenmeng's throat. His dark eyes stared at me. "Do you know who I am?" I pushed the hairpin closer. "Do you know who I am?" He clearly did not. "If you don't even know who I am, why should I know who you are? Go away." I avoided Adrian Shao, but I could not avoid Lu Shenmeng. When the carriage reached the outskirts of the city, I began bleeding again. The so-called libertine young master insisted on taking me home. But I had no home. The rented room was cramped. There was not even a proper table or chair. He could only stand beside my bed, standing there until compassion slowly rose in his heart and he reached out to help me. I worked tirelessly day and night. My palms were covered in calluses, yet the backs of my hands bore burned scars from splattered oil. When he went to fetch medicine for me, he brought back a box of scar ointment. "A woman's body is precious everywhere," he said. "Treasure yourself a little." The scars the Shao family never noticed, he noticed. There are many with eyes in this world, few have a heart. Fortunately, Lu Shenmeng had one, and a person with a heart easily moves another's, so what happened between us came naturally. Did they think I would remain alone for the rest of my life? When I placed my hand over my chest, I knew I had never wronged anyone, and I knew I must not wrong myself. Life is long. If you love the wrong person, take the wrong path, you can still turn back. As long as you live, there is no road that is truly a dead end. Why should my beautiful life fall forever into darkness because of someone else's mistake? I would live well. Life must be like a freshly fried pancake in hot oil. Only then does it have flavor. Lu Shenmeng entered the palace. Elena, curious about everything in the capital, tugged me along to browse little trinkets. A round wooden rattle with a bobbing doll head looked quite like Elena. I was holding it up, teasing her, when suddenly, Serena. For eyes met, Adrian Shao stood beneath the dim light. The wind carved sharp lines into his face. He had grown so thin it seemed a gust could carry him away. It took me a moment to recognize him. "Serena. I have searched for you for 3 years. Where have you been?" He reached out to grab me. I stepped back sharply and struck his hand away. "Sir, restrain yourself." Elena saw my expression change. She dropped the rattle and stepped in front of me. "Who are you? How dare you be so rude?" Adrian lowered his head, pain and joy tangled together in his eyes as he looked at Elena. This is our child, isn't it? You've raised her so well. She's taller than children her age. 2 hair buns. She must be our eldest daughter. Mother will be overjoyed. You've worked hard. Come home with me." Home, I found it absurd. Was my kindness in their eyes nothing but innate lowliness, so lowly that, even after seeing the filth hidden in the shadows of the Shao family. Even after being hurt again and again, I was still expected to dig my own grave and bury myself willingly. I was like my father, upright. But I would not be foolish again. We have already divorced. And you are not fortunate enough to have such a good child. Adrian's face drained of color. He searched Elena's features and found no trace of himself. Only then did he slowly withdraw his hand. After a long silence, he forced a smile. It doesn't matter. As long as she is your child, adopted or born, I accept her. Little girl, I am your father. From now on, I will stay by your side, and your mother's. Is that all right? He tried to embrace Elena. I could not bear it any longer and shoved him hard. Have you gone mad? Claiming every child you see as your own? Are even the stray cats and dogs by the roadside your children as well? Elena was so furious her little face flushed bright red. She immediately jumped up and slapped him hard across the face. What are you? How dare you ask me, the Princess of Huainan, to acknowledge you as my father? Where did you find the courage to pester my sister-in-law like this? Aren't you afraid my second brother will break your bones? That slap stunned Adrian Shao into blank silence. He stared at my face, searching desperately for any trace of jest, until the plainclothes guard behind us placed a hand on his sword hilt and fixed him with a threatening glare. Only then did Adrian believe it. The Prince of Huainan, the Emperor's most trusted younger brother, held real power. No one dared block his path. No one could rival him. No one dared provoke him. Pain flooded Adrian's eyes, his hand lifted. Then fell, just like the day I left the capital. He had always hesitated, always wavered, always tested the edges of loss. Elena. Let's go. Elena did not wish to look at him another moment. She grasped my hand and turned away. How rude. Luckily he didn't meet my second brother. Otherwise, his arm would certainly have been broken. Perhaps I was mistaken, but Adrian's figure seemed to tremble strangely behind us. After that unpleasant parting, I rarely went out at night, only once, at a banquet in the princess's residence that I could not refuse, did I see Julian Shao again. His hair was tied high. He wore luxurious robes and sat among the crowd, yet still stood out. He now carried the bearing of a bright young nobleman, but when his gaze fell upon me, his voice unconsciously rose. He spoke animatedly to those around him, boasting of how brilliantly he had displayed his talent at the horse races, how astonishing his calligraphy had become, how many praises he had received. He even spoke of his fiancée, how gentle, sensible, and amiable she was. I knew he was speaking for me to hear. He wanted to prove that without me, he still lived well, still shone. But whether his life was good or not, what did that have to do with me? I did not glance at him again. In fact, finding him too noisy, I deliberately changed seats farther away. I broke apart the finest pastries and cut the sweetest fruits into small pieces, feeding them one by one to Elena. The little girl ate happily, then expressed her affection by clinging to me and showering my face with kisses until I was covered in her saliva. Julian saw this. The boastfulness drained from him. He lowered his head, looking exactly like a wounded puppy. Second sister-in-law, that man is strange. Why does he keep sneaking glances at us? Elena spoke neither loudly nor softly, just enough for Julian to hear. I raised my eyes toward him. He stiffened at once, back straight as a drawn bowstring. His hand clenched his robe. It was the exact posture he used to take when Adrian tested his lessons in childhood. His eyes were filled with hope, expectation. But I poured cold water over him without hesitation. I don't know him. Pay him no mind. Julian lifted his head immediately. Shock and pain flooded his face. In the end, Julian Shao never truly learned statecraft from the Grand Scholar. Not long after I left the capital, the Grand Scholar dismissed him on the grounds that those who do not share the same aspirations cannot conspire together. Julian became the laughingstock of the capital. I was not surprised. He had always been impatient, unable to steady his heart to do what was before him. I advised him many times, but he only grew annoyed. Sister-in-law is just a cake seller. What do you know of the hardships of great families? If I don't advance quickly, must I sell cakes all my life like you? From now on, come see me less. Don't disturb my studies. Mother nags me enough as it is. Even when I tried to save the only son of the Grand Scholar, Julian, rushing to attend a banquet, did nothing but complain. He blamed the child for fainting at the worst possible moment, right beneath his carriage wheel, ruining his prospects. He blamed me for being a foolishly kind woman who did not know what mattered, delaying his entire future. He even blamed fate for being ill-timed, everything working against him, making his path unbearably difficult. Heaven had placed opportunity beneath his very wheel, but he saw only the distant ladder to the sky. He never saw the inch of ground beneath his feet. When he fell into the abyss, it could not be saved. That was his karma. These pastries aren't good, second sister-in-law. I want your soup. I took Elena to the pavilion behind the artificial rockery and shared with her a bowl of soup her second brother had prepared for me. She drank it with delight. Her mouth was sweet, her words sweeter, as expected of my second sister-in-law. You smell nice, and your soup smells nice too. I'm so lucky to follow you. There's always food and drink. So, you don't make mung bean dessert anymore? At that moment, Lillian Shao stepped out. She wore splendid garments, her appearance delicate and enchanting. Yet between her brows lingered a heavy gloom. You've never tasted sister-in-law's mung bean dessert? She said softly. In this capital, no one makes it better than she does. She walked toward me step by step. Large tears, like beans, spilled from the corners of her eyes. Since Helena Chi entered the Shao household, Lillian's life had grown increasingly difficult. Madame Zhao's health was poor, and she lacked the ability to manage affairs. She could not protect herself, let alone her children. Julian's future at least still had Adrian strategizing for him. But Lillian could only survive under Helena Chi's control. Chi Huan was not Wei Shuyu. She did not care about the future or the life and death of Shao Linyue. The young master she once admired had ultimately become engaged to the daughter of a schoolteacher, a quiet, refined girl of delicate beauty, talented yet never ostentatious. With only a single inkwash painting and a poem inscribed upon it, she won young Master Chu's admiration so completely that he was willing to kneel before her. Back then, I advised Shao Linyue, focus on improving your own worth. There is no need to rush matters with the Chu family. Leave it to me. But she looked down on me. How could she possibly trust me? She stained her own reputation. Now the Marquis Manor bore a tarnished name. No one wished to seek her hand. Chi Huan then married her off to a descendant of the Chi family. I did not know the man well, only heard that he already had 3 concubines. She regretted it. But in this world, there is no medicine for regret. The betrayals and cruelties of the others, I could overlook them. But Shao Linyue, she remained a scar in my heart. I had raised her with my own hands, as though she were my daughter. For her, I once embroidered a pair of screens to present to the Empress Dowager. Beneath lamplight. For 3 full months, I stitched until my fingers swelled red, until I could barely close my fists. I cooked mung bean dessert to cool her body in summer heat. The day I carried a bowl to her, My heart was brimming with joy. I wanted to tell her that the Empress Dowager had bestowed a jade Buddha statue upon the Marquis Manor, that great honor had come to our house, and her marriage prospects finally held hope. But the bowl of mung bean dessert shattered across the ground, and she stabbed me, one blow straight to the heart, so I could see clearly the coldness running in the blood of the Shao family. In that bright red flow of blood, she destroyed her own future with her own hands. And now she remembers the bowl of mung bean dessert. Did she expect me to give endlessly, forever, without asking for anything in return? Second sister-in-law cannot eat mung beans. It triggers her asthma. So second brother threw every last mung bean out of the kitchen and forbade them from entering the residence. In our prince's manor, no one touches mung beans. Everything second brother prepares for her is nourishing soup, to replenish her blood and strengthen her body. Yunner's words struck Xiao Linhua like a slap. After a long moment of stammering, she trembled and asked, "So, sister-in-law never ate mung bean dessert at all? Love or not, was it not always clear, if you love someone, knowing they are weak, you place armor upon them to protect them? If you do not love them, you drink their blood and flesh and still find it insufficient." At this moment, I finally let go. There were so many things I could not do, so many things unsuited to me. Yet you all had eyes but no hearts, you never saw. I had no mother. I did not know how to care for others, yet in the years when the Shao family declined, from grandmother to Shao Ran's mother, I tended to them from head to toe. I was only 14, so exhausted I once ran secretly to my father's grave and wept aloud, but I no longer had a father to love me. No longer. I made pastries until my hands could not straighten. Madame Shao did not even bother to open her eyes. She scolded me for laboring with my hands, as though it were worthless. "You should have studied more earlier," she said, "so you would not hinder Shao Ran's advancement." I came from an ordinary family. I did not understand the complex ledgers of noble households. Shao Ran had no time to teach me. Madame Shao only said, "Figure it out yourself." So I stayed up through the night beneath the lamp, calculating accounts with the steward, sleepless. I was quiet. I disliked socializing, but the gates of the Shao household stood high. I forced myself to smile among the aristocrats, enduring their coldness and mockery, swallowing bitterness down with tea. They wanted to marry into noble houses. They wanted prospects, so I racked my mind for ways, yet they never once asked, "Why are your eyes red? Why are your hands swollen? What is wrong?" They never saw my hardship. They never truly saw me, even on the day I left. Walking past them with my luggage, no one asked a single question. "Why are you leaving the residence?" They thought I was throwing a tantrum. They thought an orphan girl like me could never survive without them. They looked at me, Wei Shuyu, from the very beginning and believed I coveted the Marquis Manor's power and wealth. They believed I would eventually bow my head and accept becoming a concubine, trampled by others. It took half a shirchen to reach the pier, such a long road. If anyone had come to stop me, I would not have been able to leave the capital. But no one came. On the journey south, I kept asking myself, where had I gone wrong? Then, one stormy night aboard the boat, I awakened to clarity. A person who wishes to become wise must first learn to let go of themselves, must not shoulder the sins of others as their own. Those who were unworthy of my sincerity had, from the beginning, been nothing more than passers-by. I placed the past beneath my feet, and I grew, a little more. As I matured, my vision widened. My heart grew calm. I had nothing left to fear. I do not thank you for teaching me to grow. Those sufferings were not beautiful experiences. I do not hate you, not because you are undeserving of hatred, but because Wei Shuyu has become magnanimous. And now, what right do you have to speak of grievance before someone you have wronged? Beneath the shade of the trees stood Xiao Ran and Xiao Nanfeng. They had witnessed my fury. And they had heard, at last, the grievances I had carried for all these years. But the one who finally stepped forward to apologize was not any of them. It was Lucian Meng. His eyes were rimmed red. He stepped out from the banquet, casually bringing with him a light cloak. With careful hands, he draped it over my shoulders, then patiently tied the ribbons into the butterfly knot I loved most. He took my freezing fingers into his palms and breathed warm air over them, again and again, until they softened. At last, he pulled me into his embrace and gently rubbed his nose against my reddened one. "You've suffered," he murmured. "From now on, whatever storms come, I will shield you." And he always did what he said. I did not like socializing. Even when the princess raised a cup to toast me, he refused in my stead. "My wife is unwell and cannot drink. Allow me to drink in her place." Though he was known as a carefree young master, spoiled by his father, doted upon by his mother, so unruly that even the Empress Dowager once laughed and said there was no cure for this mischievous monkey, he valued me, and because he valued me, the world valued me. I was no longer the nameless cake-selling girl mocked in the rear courtyard of the Marquis Manor. I was Serena Wei, praised by the Empress Dowager, cherished by the wife of the Grand Scholar, treasured in the palm of the Prince of Huainan's residence. Helena Qi bore the title of Marchioness, yet she was treated coldly by the Xiao family. So she poured all her resentment upon me. I heard the second madam of the Meng family miscarried. That harms the body and is unfavorable for bearing children. I wonder, how many concubines are there in your household? Has any of them conceived? Before finishing, she covered her mouth and laughed softly. "I mean no harm. The second madam of the Meng family and I were once acquaintances. I merely wished to share some experience in childbirth." She had borne 2 children in 3 years and was immensely proud. The expectations placed upon women in this world had become the blade she wielded against me. All these years, she could not destroy me, yet she herself had never truly grown. Beneath my sleeve, my hand clenched tightly. Suddenly, a large hand covered my trembling fist completely. His gaze burned bright, smiling yet full of pressure. "My wife's health is perfectly fine," Lucian said calmly. "It is I who fell from a horse years ago. Matters of children are somewhat difficult for me. Fortunately, my elder brother is healthy and has many heirs. The prince's manor will not lack descendants. There is no need to trouble us." I had always known Lucian loved and protected me, but I never expected he would sacrifice his own reputation to silence gossip and block concubines from entering our household. "My wife has suffered grievances. I hope you will forgive her," he continued lightly. "Compared to having children, it is hardly worth mentioning. Serena Wei, do you know? You must have exhausted 8 lifetimes of accumulated virtue to gain my love. 8 lifetimes." He did not care for the gazes around us. He clasped my hand and placed it against his chest, rubbing gently. Only when he saw me smiling through tears did he turn his eyes toward the other woman. His voice turned suddenly cold. "And you, madam? I have never heard my wife mention you. I happened to hear some gossip in the streets. Are you the Miss Qi who picked up my wife's discarded shoe and chose to wear it? I also heard that your aunt, noble consort Qi, has been sent to the cold palace. Your entire clan is scrambling like ants on a hot pan, anxious for survival. Yet you still have leisure to concern yourself with whether I have children? Or are you trying to tempt me into fathering a few ill-fated offspring?" Helena Qi was so stung by his sarcasm that she could not reply. Lucian then turned to Adrian Xiao. "My wife is dignified. She does not stoop to quarrel with cats and dogs. With a faint squeeze of his fingers, the cup in his hand shattered into powder. But I am petty. I repay blood with blood. Tomorrow, I shall ask the emperor whether the Qi family's affairs can truly be dismissed so easily. Everyone's faces changed color, worried for the Qi household, yet Lucian leaned close to my ear, his tone teasing, neither loud nor soft, just enough for all to hear. Why make yourself suffer? Are you afraid I'll kill her? Very well, very well. I promise you, I won't kill anyone. But don't go near her again. Plague spread. This time, someone could not help but laugh aloud. Elena rubbed her face against my hand, her voice soft. Second sister-in-law, second brother listened to you. He's improving. When others bully you, he doesn't chop off their hands anymore. The Xiao family's faces turned pale. Their eyes drifted unconsciously to Adrian Zhao's left arm. Helena Qi was furious enough to twist her handkerchief, yet under Adrian's cold gaze she dared not show any temper. When the banquet ended, Lucian, as always, wrapped one long arm around me and carried me out of the residence, placing me gently into the carriage. The weather is cold. The roads are slippery. If you fall, my heart will ache. Those who heard were left speechless. It was spring. What ice could possibly make the road slippery? But he had always been like this, ever since my miscarriage left my body fragile. He treated me like a porcelain doll. If there was a puddle of mud on the road, he would carry me across it as though we faced a great calamity. His excuse was that he did not wish me to stumble on life's road again. I laughed at him for having no shame. He laughed loudly in return. If loving my own wife is shameful, then let me be shameless to death. Others may wish for a wife like you and never have the chance. Across the street, the three Xiao siblings stood with reddened eyes, watching. When she was still at the Marquis Manor, someone whispered, "Did brother ever protect her like that?" Julian Xiao glanced at Adrian Xiao, thought for a long time, then shook his head gently, "Never." Adrian Xiao stood silent. Adrian Xiao suddenly remembered that year. The rain had poured without mercy. Serena Wei had gone out to buy medicine for her mother-in-law. 3 watches passed, and she still had not returned. When she finally came back, she was drenched from head to toe. At that time, he had been busy repairing folding fans for a group of dissolute young masters. Wind and rain swept through the corridor. And in the chaos, he forgot his own wife. When Serena stepped inside, mud clung to her skirts. The tip of her nose was red. No one could tell whether from the cold or from tears. His heart tightened. Yet she did not ask a single question. She did not ask, "Why did you not come to fetch me?" She only hurried into the kitchen to brew medicine for Madame Xiao. She was too kind. Her eyes could see every hardship and suffering of others, but never her own. Back then, he had felt deep remorse. He swore silently that one day he would hold power in his hands and protect her for the rest of her life. And yet later, when he finally could have stood like Lucian Meng, shielding her from wind and rain, he brought Helena Qi into the household instead, and together with his family, pushed every storm of life onto Serena's shoulders. He forgot that she, too, was only a lone woman, that she, too, needed protection, needed love. He had always thought her temperament soft, like dough in the hands, something that could be kneaded at will, never angered. He forgot she had nothing in this world but herself and that family. So he arrogantly led his entire household to betray her. He believed she would understand, would endure, would swallow the bitterness and accept it. In the end, it was he who was unworthy of her. Only today did he understand. He did not know how to love, and he was not worthy of being loved. Let's go home. It's cold. Was it truly cold, or was it the truth that made him tremble? I heard Serena has returned. Take Nam Fong and Lillian to beg her. She's the softest, most tender-hearted person. Easy to sway. That greasy cake stall of hers, who would even want to touch it? Just pretend to be ill. She'll worry. Nam Fong and Lillian were raised by her own hands. If they cry before her and speak of their hardships these past years, even if she refuses to return, she will still help. She doesn't want to be a concubine? Fine. When the palace makes its decision, at worst we keep the children and discard the mother. With a pair of children in her hands, the Marquis Manor can consider it compensation. A cake-selling girl marrying into a Marquis household, if not for her ancestors accumulating virtue, would it ever have been her turn? Adrian could not utter a single word, only today did he truly see the shallowness, cruelty, and pettiness of this so-called noble woman. Only today did he understand what Serena had endured in the Marquis Manor, belittled, looked down upon, ignored, drained dry, and in the end, reduced to a single sentence, "She is not worthy." When she left, she took only a few hairpins. She had not even been as valued as a maid who received monthly wages, 6 years of devotion, in exchange for empty hands and a body full of wounds, and they still dared to dream of using the past to beg her return. Was that truly a past too beautiful to let go? Adrian did not dare think further. He shut his eyes. With a loud bang, he pushed open the door and ran straight back to his own courtyard without looking back. Outside, Lillian Shao looked coldly at her mother and let out a mocking laugh. She married the second young master of the Prince of Huainan and lives in bliss. Yet you still want her to return and serve you? Keep dreaming. You're the most selfish person in the Marquis Manor. You don't even care about your own daughter. You're nothing but a vampire. She flung her sleeve and stormed back to her courtyard. Clutching a bowl of mung beans, she resolved to cook a pot of mung bean soup. The soup was rushed. The more she ate, the more bitter it tasted. No, this isn't right. The flavor is wrong. She taught me, it wasn't like this. It wasn't. Yet no matter how many times she tried, the taste never matched. She screamed hysterically, smashing bowls and kicking over the stove. As if she could cast away her failure and the life she refused to accept, only at last did she realize, the bitterness came from her own tears falling into the pot. She could not bear the bitter taste, and yet all along, she had been the one brewing her own suffering. Lillian Shao collapsed, hugging herself, sobbing uncontrollably. Serena had been like a mother, like an elder sister. She had cared for her with all her heart, holding nothing back. Why had she been foolish enough to become the final straw that crushed her? She poured all her resentment onto Helena Chi and rushed to her courtyard, striking her wildly. Helena, already furious after the banquet with nowhere to vent her anger, did not hold back when faced with Lillian. The two women shoved and grappled, tumbling beneath a kettle of boiling tea. Scalding water poured over their heads and faces. Their shrill screams tore through the night. Both were left disfigured. The Shao household descended into chaos. But none of it concerned me. My husband had entered the palace to bid farewell to Consort De. He intended to take me back to Huainan. Last night, a fire had broken out in the Shao residence. He said he feared pestilence in the capital. The Shao family's disaster struck too swiftly to defend against. The case of noble consort Qi practicing witchcraft to curse Consort De and the crown prince had concluded. The emperor hated witchcraft above all. He ordered noble consort Qi to end her life with a cup of poisoned wine. Her Qi clan was implicated as well, under strict investigation by the Court of Judicial Review. Every act of corruption, bribery, and factional conspiracy was exposed. The crime extended punishment to 9 generations. The Shao family could not escape. Their property was confiscated. But the one who received the heaviest punishment was Helena Qi. People said Helena had relied on noble consort Qi's reputation to scheme and amass wealth for herself. That even death would not be too harsh a sentence for her. Evil begets evil, yet none of it had anything to do with me. I held Elena in my arms as we sat inside the spacious carriage returning to Huainan. A cool breeze lifted the curtain, revealing half of my face. From the crowd came a cry, "Sister-in-law." It was Lillian Zhao's voice, thick with tears and pleading. She was begging me to save her. I knew she had been disfigured. I knew her engagement had been broken off. With her prideful temperament and mediocre skills, she had nowhere left to go. But what she wanted was not survival. What she wanted was silk and brocade, to live as a noble young lady. Lu Shenmeng and Elena both turned to look at me, waiting quietly for my answer. Their eyes were filled with expectation, as if whatever I chose would be right. Seeing that I remained silent, Lucian reached out with his long fingers and gently tucked the loose strands of hair behind my ear. "Do whatever you wish," he said softly. "I, Lu Shenmeng, want you to be a free eagle, never a caged bird." His gaze was unwavering, as though even if he had to cross mountains of blades and seas of fire, he would walk them with me. How could I not be moved? I took his hand gently, slowly. I placed it against my abdomen, then pressed it lightly against my lower belly. "Wasn't her sister-in-law just executed?" I said calmly. "The body should still be warm. What does that have to do with me?" I paused, then looked at him. "But you are about to become a father. Don't let blood and cold winds make me worry." Epilogue: Lu Shenmeng, the destruction of the Qi family, the confiscation of the Shao family's property. It was all done by my hand. Serena is kind. She cannot bring herself to do ruthless things. But I am different. Though I bear the title of a dissolute young master, when I clear obstacles for my father and elder brother Meng, my hands are already stained with blood. Serena does not know how despicable the Shao family truly was. As for when I first met her, it was not long after the birthday banquet of the Empress Dowager. The Crown Prince is my cousin. At that time, he was still the third prince. His consort had earned lavish praise from the Empress Dowager for a double-sided embroidery piece. Knowing that the third prince's consort had a bold and careless temperament, not the sort who could sit patiently with needle and thread, he asked her who had embroidered it. She pouted. "If you like that embroidery, take it. If you like me, I might reluctantly tell you. I don't have such skill. It was done by the Marchioness, Miss Wei, the wife of the Marquis. She helped me." "The wife of a cake seller?" the third prince asked in surprise. I did not expect her to have such dexterous hands. She glared at him. "What do you mean, wife of a cake seller? She has a name. She is Serena Wei, talented and refined." Serena Wei, talented and refined. The name brushed past my ears. For some reason, I remembered it. The second time I saw her was on a boat heading south. She wore simple clothes and carried only a small bundle. Talented and refined. The name brushed past my ears. For some reason, I remembered it. The second time I saw her was on a boat heading south. She wore simple clothes and carried only a small bundle. When the boatman called out, "Miss Wei," everyone looked at her with pity. The affairs of the Shao family were known to all. Even that day at Hongyan Pavilion, it had been the Shao family's extravagant spending that gathered guests in abundance. The bustle belonged to them. She had nothing. The third time I saw her, her hairpin was pressed against my throat. I asked if she knew who I was. She did not remember that I had disembarked the boat with her. She did not remember that on that rainy day, I had left a jade-handled umbrella beside her. She said coldly, "You do not know who I am." "Why should I know who you are? Go." I found it absurd. I signaled the shadow guards to lower their blades. "Rui," I said lightly, "you want me to take you to the city gate?" She jumped from the carriage, intending to flee farther south. Alone, isolated, desolate, that was her. But an eagle with broken wings cannot fly far. She had not run more than a few steps before blood began to spill. Hearing footsteps behind her, I used the excuse of escorting her home. The place she lived in had no possessions to speak of, utter poverty. Yet even there, someone still wanted her dead. She had suffered too much. For the first time in my life, I felt pity for someone who had nothing to do with me. I said I would go buy medicine for her. But before that, I killed several men. Their corpses were thrown onto the guest bedchamber of the Marquis Zhao's residence. Only then did I return to her small house, carrying a jar of scar ointment. I am not a kind man, but I could not bear to see a kind woman like her meet a cruel end. That day on the boat, she had curled up in a corner in a daze. I stood at the bow and listened to all the whispers. They said the Shao family survived hardship because of her 3 cake ovens, which had fed 3 generations. They said the Shao family's name had been cleared, but because of her humble origins, she could not fit into noble society and lived with difficulty. They said her sincere devotion was repaid with betrayal. They said many things. In the end, it came down to one sentence. She was too kind, and lacking calculation. She truly was kind. So kind that when I saw the wounds on her hands, when I noticed the crack in her hairpin, I brought back scar ointment. I repaired the hairpin for her, and she wept. Her dark eyes, like a small puppy's, filled with tears, drop by drop, clear as pearls. She looked heartbreakingly fragile. Only then did I finally awaken to the truth. It was never that I had given her much, but that she had received far too little. From that day on, I began to feel sorry for her. Sorry for how much effort she had poured into everything, only to end up with nothing. I pitied her so deeply that I would often sit in the tea house near her pastry shop, just to watch her. I watched her struggle with business, yet still hand warm, freshly baked pastries to beggars. I watched her frail body lift heavy tubs of beans to help the elderly neighbor next door. I watched her smile as she faced hardship, faced blame, faced every cruelty life threw at her. I watched how much she had endured, how many bitter roads she had walked. Her kind heart had been trampled again and again. Yet it never lost its gentleness. She stepped over suffering and pain with a radiant smile, and from that smile bloomed flowers of resilience. Only then was I certain she was truly a good person, so good that even when the world kissed her with suffering, she answered it with song. So good that even a cold, ruthless man like me could not help but soften and fall in love. It was never the pastries I loved, it was the girl who made them. That day, I was playing chess in the courtyard when my elder brother said it looked like rain was coming. Suddenly I thought of her. I remembered that in her always overfilled basket, there had never once been an umbrella. I abandoned the hard-won chess match, grabbed a large umbrella, and rushed out. By the time I reached her shop, she had just closed the doors. The heavy rain poured down in torrents. She sighed helplessly, preparing to walk back through the storm. Then I appeared behind her, holding an umbrella large enough to shield her from wind and rain. I have always been reckless and unrestrained. Yet when it came to loving her, I became cautious down to the smallest detail. She had once been gravely wounded. One bitten by a snake fears even a rope for 10 years. I feared that my feelings might hurt her, might corner her, might make her not know how to respond. Unlike my hesitant restraint, my sister-in-law and mother were frighteningly perceptive. They circled the entire capital gathering stories from noble ladies about another Wei Suyu, a gentle, brave, and clever woman. Praised by great scholars. Rewarded by the Empress Dowager. A model of strength and simplicity, but they also learned that she had once married. Had once lost a child. Had once been injured, mother sighed, she is truly pitiful. She has never been loved properly. My sister-in-law wiped her tears. To drink medicine alone to lose a child. How much pain must she have endured? Then two furious pairs of eyes turned toward me. Isn't it because you're useless? Me? They loved and protected her openly, without concealment. I truly did not dare to act. My elder brother asked me, "Are you concerned because she was married before? Or because she's a few years older than you?" How could I care about such things? I was only afraid that if I stepped too close, she would run even farther away. Fortunately, you're not shallow, he said. The men of our family have always been devoted. Don't disgrace our name. Don't fail a good woman. Even my brother said she was a good woman. Suyu was braver than I imagined. She did not run. When I nervously gave her a jade bracelet, she hesitated only for a moment before putting it on. She looked at it and said lightly, "Not bad. Next time, don't send someone to buy pastries for you. You can't afford to keep eating like that." I laughed. She laughed too. I asked her if she was afraid. She said, "Love doesn't bite." I once loved the wrong person. Does that mean I must lose my ability to love and be loved forever? If his shadow is that powerful, then I truly lose completely. Her generosity perfected my love. Later she mentioned that her ancestral oven mold was still in the capital. I had 10,000 ways to bring it back to Huainan, yet I personally escorted her there. I am petty. I always want revenge against the heartless. Nan Shiyu and Nan Shihuan had sent assassins after her. I threw letters, and severed heads, onto Xiao Ran's bed. He stood silent the entire night before returning to the capital. He told his attendants he would marry Shihuan as planned. He disappointed me deeply, so I made it clear to him. Huainan is not a place where a marquis of the Xiao family may come and go as he pleases. He left with his left arm crippled. Let him remember, on the land of Huainan, he must walk around the Huainan prince. From then on, no one dared trouble Suyu again. I brought her back to the capital because I knew that besides the heartless, there were also people she missed, those noble ladies who had once stood up for her. When she left the capital, they had disrupted Chihuan's banquet reception. During Chihuan's wedding, they spoke cutting words that left Xiao Ran uncomfortable, all to vent Suyu's grievances. Mother said they were righteous women. Such bonds should not be severed. Suyu drank tea with the wife of the great scholar. She chatted with the lady of the ministry. She reported her safety to several other ladies whose names I cannot even recall. They all liked her. Who wouldn't? Even the Xiao family knows how to like someone, but what they like is the radiant, resplendent Suyu she is now, not the lonely, kind girl who returned to Jiangnan in destitution after leaving the capital. It is a pity there is no medicine for regret in this world, but there is poison sharp enough to stab straight into a person's heart. Helena Chi once again raised her vicious hand towards Serena Wei. Only that night, the flames did not fall upon Serena. Instead, they burned down the main residence of the Xiao family. Failure does not erase intent. Just because you did not succeed does not mean you never struck. So I petitioned the emperor. When Lord Qi was executed, his so-called good daughter should accompany him. A family ought to be reunited properly. shouldn't it? The evidence that brought down the Chi family was gathered by me. From the day Serena married me, I swore that the injustices she once endured would never repeat, and so, the Shao family had to fall. Serena knew nothing of this. She only held little Elena in her arms, waiting for me day after day. On the day the Shao estate was confiscated, I was very pleased. All the glory Serena had once shared with them, all the fortune she never had the chance to enjoy, they would repay it all. This time, the Shao family had no family like the Wei household to shield them, no roof over their heads, no standing in society, their reputation shattered. Disgraced for generations, they would carry regret and unwillingness forever, living a hardship beyond imagination. On the day we returned to Huainan, Lillian Shao, his disfigured younger sister, called out Serena's name. I knew she had been raised by Serena, half sister, half daughter. I dislike everyone in the Shao family, but if Serena had wanted to save her, I would have respected and supported her decision. I would only have used 12 parts of strength to protect Serena, never allowing her to suffer injustice again, yet she did not do so. She looked at me, eyes shining, took my hand, and placed it gently upon her belly. Her voice was soft. She calls me sister-in-law. What does that have to do with me? Lucian. You are going to be a father. Much later, when the crown prince ascended the throne, I entered the capital once more. Serena could not bear to leave our daughter and did not accompany me. On that old, worn street, I saw Adrian Shao selling pastries. I heard that his disfigured sister could not endure hardship. She sold herself into a brothel, lived a few comfortable days, then died of a venereal disease. Her body was wrapped in a mat and thrown into a mass grave. That was the end of her. Julian Shao still harbored ambition. He entered the military camp alone, hoping to exchange military merit for the future of the Marquis household. In the end, he proved useless. Within 3 months he was crippled and sent back to the capital. His once arrogant mother, Madame Shao, regretted too late. She wrote many letters to Serena. I burned every single one. Later, the noble ladies of the capital tricked her into servitude, buying her as a coarse household maid, to vent anger for Serena, and to curry favor with the reigning crown prince. They devised countless ways to humiliate her. Adrian Shao took the remaining relief funds and opened a pastry shop. He relied on Serena's baking techniques to feed the 2 disabled members of his ruined household. As I rode past on horseback and glanced at his pastries, I saw at once. They were inferior. They could not compare. When he saw me, he clearly froze. Since marrying Serena, I had changed completely. I became disciplined. I worked tirelessly. The grand scholar praised me as a late-blooming talent worthy of cultivation. Adrian envied me. He envied me openly, without concealment. He envied the robe I wore, embroidered by Serena herself, each dense stitch filled with the devotion of a virtuous wife. He once had that, and he lost it. I flaunted it before him deliberately. That humiliation, that suppression, it satisfied me more than killing him ever could. He must repent through those pastries. Yet repentance moves no one but himself. He lives neither truly alive nor truly dead. To spend a lifetime drowning in dissatisfaction, that is the retribution I granted him. And my Serena, she has never once concerned herself with any of this. Because she has always been an exceptionally good woman. The end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to Love Stories with Lisa for more stories. Thank you so much.